Hi people, hope you're doing well. I'm Hannah, for those of you joining for the first time. This is probably a bit of an odd video to join, but welcome anyway. Because I just have sometimes God puts it on me to share things, so this is just one of those times. And basically, I want to share and dispel myths about stories that I've written in religious texts and the meanings that I've gleaned from these stories. And it's basically in respect to what is love and what is not love, because anything that is not love is not of God. It's of free will, so it's man-made, yeah. And everything man-made is the devil, okay? Not everything, everything man-made, you can guarantee it's the devil, not necessarily God. Okay, right? And it's just basically, I want to talk about how there's always a competition between Ishmael and Isaac, and they are the two sons of Abraham. So Abraham is the father of all the monotheistic religions, okay? Except the two in Western society that are favoured are Judaism and Christianity, even though they are favoured from a distorted sense, and I'm going to speak on why that is after. And then the other Abrahamic faith is Islam. Okay, so basically, first and foremost, I don't think this is spoken about. I've never heard it spoken about. But Abraham's relationship with Sarah was karmic, okay? It wasn't a true love relationship. It was a karmic relationship. And by karmic, I mean one where you just have to learn loads of lessons with each other. And it was one that was basically fueled by manipulation. And the evidence of that is basically Sarah couldn't have children. She had basically Hajar, who was Ishmael's mum. She was basically the housemaid. She was like the slave, she was a wife, but she was like the slave wife. Sarah was the wife that thought a lot of herself, and Hajar was seen as the slave wife. Sarah manipulated Abraham into having a kid with Hajar because she thought she couldn't have kids. And then basically a few years later she had Isaac. And then after the birth of Isaac, she was ruled by the spirit of jealousy, and she basically manipulated Abraham. Even though she got her own kid after all of that, yeah. After that, God gave her own kid. So this is how God works, yeah. This is how God, anything you do to manipulate and veer God off his path, he throws it back in your face. So basically, she was ruled by the spirit of jealousy, and she manipulated Abraham into banishing Hajar and Ishmael into the wilderness, right? So basically, but for some reason, yeah, the Sarah and Abraham relationship is, all the praises are sung about it and stuff, when it's very obviously a karmic relationship, to me anyway, very obviously not a true relationship. And also, it brings home the message about inheritance, yeah. So she thought, oh, now that she's got a son, she wants all the inheritance just for her birth son, and she wants to reject her old plan where she was just manipulated Abraham to having a son with Hajar, yeah. So anyway, and then she thought, okay, well, that's her legacy sorted out. She's got it under control. She doesn't have anything under control. That's the message. She doesn't have anything under control. She can't manipulate God's will, right? That's what she was trying to do. But yet the relationship of Sarah and Abraham is lauded as the true one, because Isaac was such a miracle. when what is the miracle? Yeah, it was basically like Abraham was old when he had both of them. I don't think there was that much age difference between them. Sarah was old, but Hajar wasn't old, I don't think. Yeah, Sarah was old, but Hajar wasn't old. And basically, like, one of the universal laws, I've spoken about this before on the channel, is contrast, yeah? We have a law of contrast, yeah? One of the 12 universal laws. This was the example of contrast in the story, because and basically there's examples of this in all societies, in all people from all walks of life, doesn't matter what religion you are. There is examples of, in families, yeah, there's this black sheep, there's a scapegoat, there's someone who's ostracized from the family, seen as less than, seen as worthless, they're looked down upon, they're judged, everything, yeah, they're written off as nothing, but they make their own way. And that's basically, after all the manipulation that Sarah did, yeah, she thought she had her legacy written and that her inheritance and all was sorted out. It's an example that inheritance is divine. It's not necessarily from your immediate family. Like, God gives you your inheritance. And Ishmael's inheritance just happened to be Islam, right? Islam. But did he know that? No. Did Hajar know that? No. They were just forsaken, yeah? They were forsaken to the wilderness. Or, like, all they had really was their faith in God to survive until they settled somewhere. And they settled in, like, modern day Saudi Arabia. But they didn't know that their Prophet Muhammad would come from their lineage or nothing. They just had faith in themselves and that the days would get better, and that's it. And that's the path they followed, right? Whereas the manipulation path is the one that's like everyone praises the manipulation path, which is not actually love, right? It's not. That's an example of what is not God. It's not divine. Yeah, that's why it's a karmic relationship. But the Christians, these masses of Christians and masses of Jews just want to be right and want to only see the rosy side of, like, they just want Isaac to be the one that's looked up to and idolized, and it's just false idolatry. And it's the false perception of God eventually gave them a child so they could keep their inheritance in their family and, like, not outside it, when God found a way to use Sarah's manipulation to fulfill his ultimate prophecy, which was actually written about in the Bible. There's chapters that actually prophesize Muhammad in the I don't know if it's in the Old Testament, I can't remember, but anyway, in the Bible, I don't know if it's the Old or the New Testament, probably both, it is written about that there would be a prophet that was like Moses, right? And that's Prophet Muhammad. But nobody knew, like, basically they all were ruled by the spirit of jealousy, which is obviously the devil. That's not God. The spirit of jealousy is not God. Banished Ishmael and his mum Hajar to the wilderness. All they had was their faith, and they built their own destiny. They built the legacy, the divine legacy, the divine prophecy. Yeah, it was them of their own energy and their own will and their own determination. So basically, if there's a divine if there's a divine prophecy and a divine legacy to fulfill, God will see it done. And if you've been stupid enough to manipulate situations, then God will, you know, have it backfire in your face mega. So that what was born out of corruption essentially was the Isaac, that's corruption, because it's from the root of the relationship was manipulation. The root of the relationship was manipulation, but God finds a way to use it for good. That's what love is. Love is transmutation, and it finds a way to use situations for good. Okay? And so there's the law of contrast that shows you what happened, and the Ishmael and Isaac, the Ishmael and Hajar story it's just that they fumbled the way along and found the way with God's help. And then all the odds were against them. They had no comfortability and stuff like that. And they made the legacy came true because of the will of God and because of divine intervention. At the end of the day, God used that Sarah manipulated Hajar to have a kid because she wanted to basically have a kid. She thought she couldn't have one for herself. And then God used that kid for good, for his will, for his ultimate prophecy, which was already written. Yeah, it's already written. And it just shows that you make your own destiny. You make your own inheritance. God gives you your inheritance. God gives it to you. And you don't know what it is, but you either trust and you follow the divine path and align your will to that path, or live the hard way like Sarah and Abraham. Sarah and Abraham, that was manipulation. That was the hard way. That was a karmic relationship. And there's other stories in the Bible that show you actually like what true love is, and even through Prophet Muhammad. So I'll talk about Prophet Muhammad first. So Prophet Muhammad, he has a true love relationship with Khadija. Yeah, Khadija was older than him, and it's not necessarily like something that was acceptable in society, but they had a very stable relationship, and he would have actually stayed married to Khadija if she didn't die, but she died. So that then God brought him another wife, which was Aisha, and to serve another purpose. And from all intents and purposes, it sounded like he wasn't really in love with Aisha, and she was a manipulative person as well in terms of like being in a relationship, like not really trustworthy person in terms of the relationship. But she was intelligent and could help spread the word of the Quran. So God used her to do that. Is that, and from what I've gleaned, from what I've read, they most likely only consummated the marriage and didn't really do much else. That's basically what I've read from the story. And like there's other stories in like the Bible which show like what true love is and what isn't. And like the stories where like, for example, Ruth and Boaz, they're like a true love story where they go through trials and tribulations and then find their way back to each other. But then there's like Jacob's in like a love triangle, and I don't remember like who the people are. Jacob's in a love triangle, and he has a baby with the one that he doesn't love. He has children with the one that he doesn't love. And that's just so basically like that's just an example to show you that that's also manipulation. But God knew that woman was the third party woman wasn't the loved one, so he gave her kids. Because everyone needs love in their life, so God will give you the kids, so you have love dynamics in your life. But yeah, like other people who have like read the text more recently than me, it's been like 10 years since I've read them. We can put in the comments like more detail about that. But there's just examples in the religious text about like love triangles and what's real love and what's real you know, in real service to God, and what is just manipulation, and what is lessons. And I don't know why the story about Ishmael is not talked about. Like, no one speaks about this. No one speaks that actually it tells the tale of actually what is divine inheritance and what is like manipulation of wealth and manipulation of legacy. Because basically that's what you could look at it as. Sarah tried to derail and delay the fulfillment of the prophecy of Prophet Muhammad and of the birth of Islam. Like, you could look at it from that perspective, but no one talks about it like that, even though for me that's the way that I see it. But there's so many people that are brainwashed into this other narrative that they had this perfect relationship and God gave them a miracle. No, God gave her a lesson from the law of contrast to be patient. She was not patient. She did not believe. She manipulated the path. And then it was used against her. But I just wanted to, I don't know why that was, I don't know. I just feel like as someone that is like an outcast in my family and just an outcast in society generally, I feel like I've got to actually shed some light on some of the bullshit that's just like regurgitated as the truth about religion and who's better than who, and who's the more superior one, who has the most perfect story, when really like the real ones are the ones walking their own path and are just like, even though Ishmael and Hajar, they got outcasted and they got like banished to the wilderness, God was still with them. God was still with them, and God's prophecy came true. God's prophecy of Islam was already written. It's already written. So, but they just lived and trusted God and went along the path, didn't know what it was for or anything like that. And eventually Prophet Muhammad came and the Quran came exactly how exactly how it was written about. So what's Sarah, Isaac and all of the karmic bullshit got to do with it? Nothing. Absolutely irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. I'm just saying. I'm not like I'm people, there are people who are Christian who do actually read the texts and interpret the texts with like rationally, and don't romanticize things and don't put rose-colored glasses on and don't make the white side better than the brown side. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, because Hajar was like the slave, basically. She was like the slave wife that Sarah always treated as beneath her. And like was manipulating like Abraham to treat as beneath him as well. But the message is like, you're never in control. You don't know what God's plan is. So you either get with the program and just tune into that truth, which is the truth, or just get out of the way. Get out of the way. And basically, like, in reality, like, that was just shame. Like that whole dynamic was just shame. It was just lies and deceit and treachery, and yeah, that's not love. That's not love. So anything that she had a hand in causing was not love. And then it brought more tests and stuff because of like the test of Abraham had to get tested with his faith about if he believed in God with the sacrifice of of Isaac and stuff like that, whereas Hajar and Ishmael got tested in a different way. They got tested by how they would survive when they were put in like harsh conditions, and obviously like eventually they got guided to a place where they could settle and prosper enough to have children and then have a lineage that actually brought Prophet Muhammad. But yeah, like yeah, there's just like I don't know, if you look at things from what is love and what is not love, it makes it very easy. It's easier for me to understand, and it's easier for me to just cut through the mess and the noise and see the lessons and see the messages. And it's just funny how there's relationships that exist like that today, like the Sarah and Abraham one, right, which is clearly not love. Like there was no freedom in that relationship. Like no, it was all manipulation, and that's what's worshipped. So there's loads of people in relationships like that and think that's the right way, and it's just not. It's not. And that's why Islam came, because Islam is very clear. The core message of Islam is oneness, and that we're all God's children, yeah. And there would have been no need for Islam to come and deliver that message had there not been the corruption prior, because everything would be sorted. It'll be all ironed out. Everyone would know the laws. Everyone would be going on their own path and getting their own destinies, not just living in jealousy and living in hatred and living in greed and like not actually just what's it called, like sitting on the laurels waiting for inheritance from the parents and not actually just making anything for themselves, or like just falling into the trap of carrying on the family business or whatever and not actually living out, not doing their unique thing that they're here to do. Anyway, I think that's all really for the message. That's it. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, comment. It's free and it helps me. And yeah, just let me know. Let me know if you know the name of that, because I can't remember the names of all the people in the Bible, right? Because I've not read it. Let me know if you know what I mean about is it Jacob had the child with Leah that wasn't a love child, stuff like that. Let me know. And just yeah, this is not a normal video. This is not normally the sort of video that I make, but can't really deny that I have been on a spiritual path. Like that's the way that God took me on my path to get to where I am, and all of that, paying attention to all of that, like helps me with my discernment And it's like, well, why aren't other people developing their discernment, and why aren't other people seeing the actually like the real message of the story? Like, why is it all these other rosy stories and that aren't really the truth? It's like with Jesus as well. Like, for me, the story about Jesus is to believe in the supernatural, because it wasn't like a normal birth. His coming into it wasn't a normal birth. It's more about believing the supernatural, and that he had supernatural healing powers. He wasn't a nice person, really. He wasn't a likable person. He had lots of enemies. People, like, it's the same kind of jealousy spirit, but not from your family. It's like your friends and stuff like that all betrayed him. But for me, the lesson about Jesus is not that he's God or anything. It's just that God performs miracles. Believe in miracles because God makes miracles. God has brought the supernatural to earth. The earth is capable of, like, there's people on earth that are like Sarah and Abraham. They were rooted in physical reality. She was trying to control her physical reality and her material situation, and didn't really believe in the supernatural, or didn't really believe in, she wasn't really rooted in God. She wasn't really rooted in spirituality. Whereas Jesus was an example of why you should have faith, and why you should not always believe what you see. that's I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Yeah, I think that's the end of the video now. I always do this. It's like, oh, it's the end. Say a bit more, then it's the end. Take care. Bye. See you next time.